Welcome to the Healthy Perspective Podcast with your host, chiropractor, entrepreneur, mentor, and author, Dr. Chris Boman. He'll break down and extract the secret sauce behind his own success and the success of some of the top leaders in every category and from around the world. Get ready for your weekly mental adjustment because shift is going to happen.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Healthy Perspective Podcast. Today we have Miss Mandy Rowe with us. She is the president of True REST, the world's largest float spa franchise, and she's focused on bringing pain relief, relaxation, and better sleep to the masses, which as a chiropractor, I can tell you, people are having worse and worse sleep, more and more anxiety, more and more stress and tension, whether the result of COVID stress, political stress, financial stress. There's so many things that are attacking us from a stress level that our bodies are reaching the limit to adaptability. I love floating myself. We were talking a little bit beforehand. I got 2 or 3 sessions in. I had it all planned out for the year, and then something happened with my float. So maybe we need a rest franchise out here that would allow me to continue that. But I fully support it. I've experienced the benefits from it. If anything, a few moments alone with no kids, no thought processes, nothing to get done. You can't take your phone in there with you. It's just a moment of just you and your thoughts and the beneficial minerals and whatnot that your body is in. So I'm excited for this conversation. Mandy, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So why don't you kind of just start from the beginning? Were there any health problems that you were trying to overcome that the float, kind of was like your key, your magic, pill, so to speak? And then going into building a franchise, like that's no joke. Not everybody can do that. How did you acquire the skill and the vision to be able to, build what you have going now?
Yeah, thanks. So man, this dates back to when I was in college. I went to Vanderbilt in Nashville, but I'm from San Diego, specifically from Coronado Island, where, the Navy SEALs train. Mm-hmm. And it was because of my friend's dad, who had just come back from deployment, dealing with severe PTSD, anxiety, physical ailments. And talking to him that he said, hey, one of these things that we do is called float therapy. And my dad and I both had absolutely no idea what he was talking about. Mm-hmm. And there wasn't really anywhere to go try it in Southern California. The closest place we could find was in Phoenix. And so my dad actually flew out to Tempe, tried it for the first time out there, and just had a phenomenal first experience. And I'm in Nashville. So he's telling me, hey, go try out, a float spa in Nashville and see how it goes. And it was a great sensory deprivation experience, but from a business model standpoint, it was probably not a place I would visit again. Was not very comfortable with the entire process, even though the float was really impactful for me. Mm-hmm. So I actually had another career going on at the time in commercial real estate, but my dad was going 100% all in on True REST. It was already the space that he had visited in Tempe. They had agreed on franchising. So about, 6 months to a year later, I decided, I want to be all into. Like, wow. I love vision. It is cutting edge. It is a holistic therapy, which is a lot more fun to talk about than commercial real estate. Right. At least that's what I thought at the time. And so I jumped into it with him, and we've been doing it together ever since. And I always felt like if the Navy SEALs could validate it, then, it was something that the rest of the public absolutely needed.
Right. So kind of speaking on those terms, maybe those people that haven't heard of float therapy, why don't you describe it for us?
Yeah. So the way that True REST does it is a float pod. It's about 8 feet long, and it's filled with 10 inches of water and 1,000 pounds of Epsom salts. So even if you try and push your hands down, it's going to bring you right back up to the top. You're going to float completely effortlessly on top of the water. And if you're comfortable with it, the most profound experience is going to be no sound, no light, no gravity. But for anyone who's maybe uncomfortable with that, you're in complete control of the experience. Mm-hmm. So if you want to leave the lights on, you want to leave the lid open, you want to ask me questions in the lobby, there's an intercom. You can Bluetooth or plug in your own music if you want to listen to something. So we just want anyone to feel comfortable to come try it, and then eventually ease you into that sensory deprivation experience where you're going to have the strongest physical, mental, and spiritual benefits.
Yeah. So what are those benefits?
There's no one that could not benefit from a float. I mean, my clients go as young as 14 to, as old as their mid 70s. And the big three that people come in with are pain relief. So that's women that come in with fibromyalgia, they come in with migraines, they've got spinal cord injuries, anything pain related. Better sleep is probably the second largest. And that's really what those Navy SEALs were talking about as well, that they were insomniacs, they can't sleep at night. And we find that people sleep really, really well, not even in the float pod, but that night when they go home and they go to sleep. And then the third is just going to be that relaxation. And so we are constantly in, fight or flight with our bodies. And in this day and age, always looking for stimulation. It's like, if you're not triple tasking, listening to a podcast while you're driving and, doing something else, then you're not doing enough. Right. And so actually cutting all of that out and taking it so far as to even cut out gravity, that your muscles don't even have anything to be doing, you can really get away from that fight or flight state. You can tap into your parasympathetic nervous system and really allow your body to heal itself and really just focus on its, internal functions, which we don't give it enough time to do throughout the day.
Yeah, and as a chiropractor that's focused on, optimal neurological function of my patients, I'm not a typical chiropractor where I just come in and hope your back pain goes away, your neck pain goes away. Like, we focus on getting people mentally wanting that state of, ease of parasympathetic, and the type of scans that we do are just showing more and more stress. And I recommend all the time, like, if people are sore, especially maybe a little sore from an adjustment or a workout, go home and take an Epsom salt bath. What are the major differences between like a home Epsom salt bath and then going to like a place dedicated to providing these services?
Yeah, well, I want to go back to what you said about that brain health, because I love that. We do a lot of research in this industry with fMRI studies where we're actually reading their brain waves while they're floating. And it's fascinating how quickly people can get into that theta wave state, which we know is really beneficial for memory retention, for sleep, for, a lot of different cognitive processing. But watching people's brains too after the float, when they get out and they notice that lights are brighter, sounds are louder, food tastes better. It's just amazing how bogged down we've made our senses, where everything kind of feels dull until you cut it all off for a little bit and then get to taste it again or see it again.
Right. Yeah. So it's almost like a mixture of contrast therapy as well. It's like your world is so busy, you don't realize how bogged down you are. You cut it all out and it's like, wow, like this is what freedom feels like a little bit.
Oh yeah. You have no idea how many people come out crying. They're either, and not in a negative way, but they just never had that time alone and truly alone, where all there is to hear is your own heartbeat and your eyelids blinking. And you've got to really do some, introspection. And we always make a joke. If you can't spend an hour alone with you, what does that say about you? And so for a lot of people, they're like, I'm really scared of my thoughts, or I don't want to be alone. It's like, we can listen to a podcast. We can put something in there to kind of help you eventually get used to it. But that is something that, we should all probably work on.
Right. Absolutely. Now, from a business perspective, this is called the healthy perspective. We've had MDs, we have nutritionists, we have, all the healthy people, but we've also had a lot of entrepreneurs come in. And I think franchising can be really unhealthy and it can be really healthy. What is that model like? How is jumping into that? I mean, maybe someone's interested in like, man, there's nothing out here like that. I love the benefits of it. Why not turn my passion into a business? What does franchising with the rest look like?
Yeah, I mean, you made a good point that it can sometimes be a little bit scary. And that movie, The Founder, about the McDonald's franchise, I think is a really good example of that, and a really fascinating movie for me to relate to. But what we found in this industry, let's say 7 years ago, when we were just beginning to franchise, was the only people interested in this business model were the people that tried float therapy and had such a profound experience that they just had to open up their own float spa. And they were really into health and wellness already. And as we've evolved and proven that this is a validated business model, people need this, people want this, and the many franchisees we have are making money. Now I've got more, business savvy franchisees, area developers coming to me and saying, I don't really know what you're doing, but I've read the financials and I want to do it too.
Wow.
Now tell me about floating. So it's flipped a little bit recently, but I think in the very beginning, just getting that ball rolling, I'm extremely grateful for my dad, who is definitely that visionary, who was like, this is what we're doing. It's phenomenal. He's got the background in franchising. He's like, it's going to be the next big thing. And people really believed him. But when it actually came to like the science behind floating and the whys and where it's going, that's where I got super excited, because I think there are a million ways to make this business grow. And right now, awareness is still just our biggest problem. So I appreciate people like you bringing me on podcasts so I can help kind of spread that awareness. Because once it becomes something everyone knows, then we can really take it a step further. And that transparency with my franchisees, that vision, that excitement, I think is what keeps everyone going and what keeps the business growing, is because we're all super, super excited to share floating with the masses and then take everyone's holistic health just to another level inside the float pod.
Now, let's say someone has, a regular 9-to-5 job. They've been in it for a few years. They don't really like it, but it's paying the bills. They get turned on to float therapy. They love it. They realize, there's a franchise opportunity. I'd imagine the top, few questions, like, I don't have a lot of capital stored up to start something. When do I, how do I do this and my job, or when can I quit, or, whatever. How do you approach those sort of people, where I'm assuming those are the people you want on your team? You'd rather have more people passionate about float therapy and less people passionate about the money, because really, that's how you get customers in that have a great experience, is when you're passionate about the actual application, of the service. How do you help overcome those hurdles?
Yeah. So a lot of people originally started with us, just had corporate burnout. They were in the oil and gas industry. I've got people in pharmaceutical sales. I've got franchisees in medical device sales, insurance brokers. I mean, a really wide variety of practices. I've got CPAs, I've got attorneys. And once everyone tries float therapy, assuming that they like it, they come to me for the due diligence side of research on the brand.
Yeah.
And my purpose is to give you the 9 dots to run a successful business model. And you just have to connect the 9 dots. But in order to do so, that means you need to get funding. We need to secure real estate. We need to do architectural and talk to your county about permitting. And those are all the things that I support the franchisees on, even before they actually sign a franchise agreement. So all of that can be done before you make any large commitment. But most of my franchisees go with a small business loan. There's a few ways to do that. You could always borrow against your house in a HELOC. You could get a standard SBA loan, which means you really only need about $120,000 in cash or a 401k to get started. There are really good 401k rollover options that are tax-free. And a lot of people have also just gone the friends and family route, talking to their parents, their aunts, their uncles, even just investors that they know in town, and coming up with that 20%. And then I have the banks that already know my business model and will tell you, we're going to be able to get you funded. Let's get the ball rolling. And then I have all the vendors that will help connect those dots on the real estate, architectural, construction, and be able to get you open. But kind of like you said, I want people that are going to go in their grocery store and they're going to tell everyone and their mother how amazing Epsom salts are and floating is. So when they see someone grabbing that Mr. Teal's bag at Target, they're going to be like, let me give you a free float card. You're going to like this even better. And those are the people that are the most successful in this industry.
Yeah. I love it. And I think that's the scariest part, because people that are used to being told what to do, now making decisions on their own, being a business owner, that's the hardest thing. Is like, well, I don't know this, so I can't do it. And I love that you bring those connections and your network into it. And that's what I feel can make a franchise toxic, or if it's like, no, you just give us money, you figure it on your own, or the best way to go, where you're going to have someone holding your hand running a business with you that already has successful business owners walking through the same walk that you've been through, have access to my network. Like, we want you to be successful. We don't want you just to do this because you love. Like, we want you to make money. We want you to help change lives. And so I love that. So anybody,
well, that's what I'm doing here. I'm in Omaha, Nebraska, running a float spa right now because they just need a little bit of help, when people are short staffed, especially these days.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what we're here to do. I mean, so we've got a marketing team, we've got an operations team, we've got a float pod team. We've got a, tech team, and our job is to make your life easier so that you can focus on bringing in the business and not stress about, the daily operations as much.
Yeah. And that's huge. I think a lot of people, maybe with more of a scarcity mindset, would be like, well, franchise, I'm not making all the money from the, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, but you have the mothership marketing for you, doing these things for you. Like, we finish with this podcast, this gets dispersed with all your franchisees. There's a whole bunch of marketing done for you that you don't have to do. You have people that have the vision, that have the direction, that have the problem solving. So there's a lot of benefits in joining a franchise. It really delegates a lot of the things that solo entrepreneurs really have a hard time delegating, because when you're on your own, you are the marketing team, you are the tech team, you are the administrative, you are the hiring, you have to build templates and hiring and firing system procedures. Having all that done for you, so you can just be passionate about what you love about the business, which is, in this case, the float. I can't recommend it enough. So now
you don't know what you don't know. So I think a lot of people, especially in this industry, it's a very simple model. You walk into a float pod, you float for an hour. It's not like I have the independent contractors like masseuses do, or in chiropractic. I don't have to have that kind of skilled labor because the float pod does it itself. And for us, it's more about transparency during that evaluation process, because I want to tell you everything that's going to be a hurdle for you before we get started. And I want you to see every other franchisee's financials so that you don't have to worry about, your projections, or, am I being honest about what you could make? Just see what everyone actually makes. And let's focus on the float spot part, because I know for a lot of people, it's still really new.
Right. Yeah. I love it. That's awesome. Now to kind of, wrap things up a little bit, talking about the future of float. We mentioned a little bit earlier. Where do you see things going? What's the growth trajectory? What are the different options that are going to become available as technology improves? Where do you see things going?
I mean, things are getting exciting. I love this industry. It's so much fun. Sensory deprivation will always be the purest form of this business, because that is where you're going to have the most profound benefits. But I know still that, your average, soccer mom out there might be afraid of the picture she sees of a float pod, and it's going to stop her from ever trying this therapy. And that breaks my heart. Like, I want to get those people in the door. And as much as I can change my marketing and my messaging to try and get their attention, I think there are also a ton of ways to bring relaxation to those people without sensory deprivation. And so for me, that looks like guided meditations, hypnosis for weight loss, virtual reality, where you can put on VR goggles inside the float pod. Where you thought you might be claustrophobic, now you're sitting on the top of a mountain and a shaman is talking you through some breathing exercises, and you're just watching the clouds roll by and someone's talking you through the 45-minute or hour-long float. And I am excited to roll out that VR program. So we'll give people a lot of different options in case they want to change it up and not always do sensory deprivation. And maybe even eventually add red light therapy in, which I also know has a lot of health benefits. And trying to keep it to the float pod, but give people a really wide range of relaxation and health benefits, is where I think True Rest is going to go. Right now, I've got 15 locations under construction. We're in 22 states, so I should be at over 50 locations by the end of the year. And then, hopefully 100 in the next 2 years. So True Rest is getting out there. I'm not worried about us expanding and going to new markets. What gets me jacked up and, excited in the morning is what else we can do with this therapy to just get more attention and get more people into float.
I love it. And I think, we talked about a little bit beforehand, research too. Like, as research capacity increases, because if you're, the sensory deprivation, no technology, no nothing like that, you can't, like, unless you're doing the fMRIs and whatnot, you can't really get a lot of data. But if you can be like constantly streaming data, if they're on virtual reality or if they have technology in there, I mean, think of the millions of floats of, people sending in heart rate, people sending in, eye twitch, all of those sort of things. I mean, the future of that, just collection of data will be absolutely amazing as well. So I'm looking forward to that. True Rest is definitely on my radar. I look forward to floating again. Hopefully I'll find another place in town, or we'll just build one out here. Why don't we do that?
I was gonna say, you could franchise.
Yeah, that'd be great. Let's do it. And I mean, like I said, I love it. If people want to know more about you, if people, are interested in floating and they love the way you talked about it, or they're interested in a location, where can they find out more about you, more about True Rest?
Yeah, we're on every platform. So personally, like on TikTok and Instagram, I'm Mandy M Rowe, ROWE. And everywhere else for the brand, it's True Rest Float Spa. And most people don't realize REST actually stands for Reduced Environmental Stimulus Therapy. So that's where our name came from. So the True Rest Float Spa is where you can find us, truerest.com. All my franchising information is on the website.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Mandy. This is a great podcast. I'm excited for people to listen to it. And we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you for listening to the Healthy Perspective Podcast. To connect with Dr. Boman, follow him on Instagram at Dr. Chris Boman. Until next time, make shift happen.